become a passing league. Nobody's interested. According to a report this morning, Steelers haven't gotten much interest in Antonio Brown. You ever watched Antonio Brown play? I mean, if he was an NBA player, you could make an argument he's James Harden. He's unstoppable. Nobody's interested. For a lot of reasons, this is predictable. The current dynasty in a copycat league, New England, proves even Tom Brady should take a pay cut. The system's bigger than the players. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, if Green Bay 2 years ago, not Kansas City, had said, let's draft Patrick Mahomes, how valuable this morning would Aaron Rodgers, 35 years old and brittle, be? Not very. NFL is mostly a coaching sport. The final four coaches this year, Andy Reid, Sean Payton, Sean McVay, Bill Belichick, probably the four best coaches in football. The NBA is more about collecting 2 or 3 stars. You don't need depth. Golden State has no bench. They've never had a team with less of a bench. It will not matter. Half of the NBA possessions, if you think about it, aren't even plays. Half the time the team comes down, score the ball. In the NFL, it's choreography. Every offensive play has to be designed and run perfectly. Move your left hand as a right guard, it's an offsides penalty. Listen, in the NBA, David Blatt had been to a finals. They were a number 1 seed in the East. Star wanted him out. He's gone. Antonio Brown, with a coach many people think is sort of kind of a little bit underachieving, Mike Tomlin says, get him out of here. One of the reasons I think the NFL is so popular in America is that you don't become beholden and captive to the whims, needs, and sometimes egos of a 27-year-old kid. I remember when I was 27 years old, I was just not ready to make $100 million and be a star. And when I look around at Antonio Brown, the Cowboys dumped Dez, went back to the playoffs. New England got rid of Randy Moss, been to 4 Super Bowls, won half of them. Seattle moved off Richard Sherman, had a surprisingly good year. In the NFL, man, you got to beware and be very careful about what you think you're worth. Antonio Brown feels like James Harden, kind of an unstoppable force. That if he, you literally have to put 2 people on him. Jacksonville tried that a couple years ago in a playoff game. It still didn't matter. On the market, passing league, receiver league, not many people are interested. NFL players, you're not worth as much as NBA players. You're not worth as much as Robert Downey Jr., who's doing, Iron Man. You're not worth as much as that star, Drake, who single-handedly goes on stage and we can't take our eyes off him. Football's about coaching, choreography, and system. And if you think you're really, really valuable, no trade offers for an absolutely transcendent, remarkably gifted player, Antonio Brown. Joy Taylor with the news.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herdline News.
So, ESPN's Seth Wickersham dropped a lengthy feature on the state of the Browns franchise this morning. The report details the heated meeting in which owner Jimmy Haslam and GM John Dorsey told Hugh Jackson that he was fired.
Yeah.
It did not go over well, according to Wickersham. Jimmy Haslam and John Dorsey entered Jackson's office and told him the team was going to move in a different direction. Jackson asked why he was being fired, and the team quit on you, was what Dorsey replied. Get the bleep out of my office,
that's not
what Hugh Jackson allegedly said in the meeting. Hugh Jackson went 3-36 as Cleveland's head coach before being fired on October 29th, and then they went on to close the season 5-3. Baker Mayfield broke the rookie record for 27 touchdowns in the season and is being considered for Offensive Rookie of the Year, and now Freddie Kitchens is the new head coach of the Browns. This is not the best report you want to have come out after you leave the place.
I mean, the knock on Hugh has always been, Jason Whitlock calls him hubris, Jackson, is that There's a little ego with Hugh. I always thought, I think I told you this, Joy. I think Hugh would be a huge college football success. I think he could, good-looking guy, big personality, would go on the road, walk into the living room. He'd be a great recruiter. And I think he really does know offense. There's no question. Hugh knows offense. He's helped a lot of quarterbacks. But this thing here was, I think you had, between Haley and Hugh Jackson, you had kind of combustible personalities with a chaotic franchise, and it was just never meant to be. And then you brought in Baker, who they had to make that puppy work, and that was one of those instances where the rookie quarterback had a little bit more leverage than the coach, who had gone 0-16 and 1-32.
Yeah, I mean, I think certain personalities are just better catered for college football.
Yeah.
Nick Saban, I think, is a good example of that.
Authoritarian.
All-time great college football coach, but just didn't work in the NFL because certain people just... You're dealing with men and you're dealing with kids in college football. And that's no disrespect to college football players who I'm sure feel like they are men, but you don't have mortgages. You don't have families. You're not making millions of dollars.
Kids are more willing to take your word for it.
Well, it's also just an entirely different environment in college. Like it's more about the coach in college, and it's about the brands and the players in the NFL. And then sometimes that balance is too tough to reach. So after hitting the free agent market this March, Cowboys receiver Cole Beasley suggested the team front office dictates where passes dictates where passes are thrown. And yesterday, Stephen Jones brushed aside that notion during an appearance on the Rich Eisen show.
I would hope that's just his frustration, but certainly not at all the case. I mean, we don't get involved in that. You know, the only thing we ever do is decide to tell you if we're going to pay players a lot of money or we're going to trade for players and give up big picks. But we would never dictate where balls go or things of that nature in terms of the game plan and getting involved with what our coaching staff does to get ready to play a ball game. And certainly of all people, Cole's always involved in getting balls and getting catches.
I mean, most of this is probably because his targets dipped from 6.14 per game to 4.45 per game after the acquisition of Amari Cooper.
Yeah, Amari Cooper
elevated the entire team.
Yes. I mean, Cole Beasley is a valuable piece. I think slot receivers really matter, but once Amari showed up, it's like, let's get Amari into this offense big time.
It's inevitable. Cole did tweet yesterday, some are misunderstanding my point. Every team's game plan in pro sports is dictated by the front office. Big free agent additions, high draft picks, etc., are going to get the most opportunities. I'm not mad at that. I just want to help my team win. All good players want the rock. That's true, but if you come out and say that the front office dictates who gets the ball, you're basically implying that they are literally saying you have to throw the ball to Amari Cooper.
That's what it sounded like he said to me yesterday.
The first round draft pick. Like you can kind of backpedal off it now because it seems like he's putting them in a bad position, but really, I don't know that I don't believe it because it is Jerry Jones and he does run every aspect of it. It's not so far-fetched to me to believe that an owner doesn't come down like, hey, you know, it seems like this guy we're paying a lot of money isn't getting all the passes.
Yeah, I don't buy it, but I think there have been situations where owners meddle. Steinbrenner in baseball was telling people what to do. Like, it's not the first.
It's not unheard of.
No, there's NBA owners.
I really think it's happening here, but it's not unheard of. And finally, you were just talking about Antonio Brown. The Steelers have apparently realized they might still need Antonio Brown, especially because trading a player of his caliber at $21.1 million at a cap hit seems like a tough move. Marquise Pouncey said earlier this week that he thought the relationship between the team and Brown could be mended. And now owner Art Rooney said weeks ago that he couldn't envision Brown being with the Steelers by training camp. But he said yesterday there are a lot of factors that we have to take account on it. We'd have to sit down with Antonio and understand where he is and make sure he understands where we are. There's some work to do before we figure that out. I have said I do think that it is still a possibility they all get in a room and sort it out. A slim possibility.
Le'Veon Bell is the one player to me of their two stars that I know there's this like narrative now that running backs, you don't need a big running back, but it should be noted that Todd Gurley and Zeke have absolutely helped shape Dak and Jared Goff. So let's not make it that running backs don't matter. No, they do. By the way, Andrew Luck finally has a running back, Marlon Mack. Andrew Luck had a great year.
Look what Sony Michel has done for the Patriots.
And by the way, I thought the Chiefs were better when Kareem Hunt was around.
The Chiefs felt unstoppable with Kareem Hunt.
Okay, so this idea that star running backs don't matter, I would pass on Antonio Brown if I was a GM. If I'm the Jets, Le'Veon Bell was an 80-catch, 200-carry guy. You can say whatever you want. There's not a lot of those guys on the face of the earth. How many Zekes are there?
There aren't.
There aren't.
And that's why I said I really feel like the Steelers should pay Le'Veon. I know that there's this idea that paying a star running back is like they're just interchangeable. You can do running back by committee. You really can't. And if you look, like you said, at the teams that are here at the end of the year, they have a strong running game.
By the way, this whole running back by committee in New England. They had Corey Dillon, a star. Curtis Martin, a New England guy. By the way, Sony Michel's just not another running back. James White's the best pass-catching running back maybe of my life. This idea that they use they had Mike Gillislee. He was a running back by committee guy. Rex Burkhead, but they're not getting big carries. Bottom line is New England has often had really good, what you consider regular guy running backs. James White was a great college back, I think, at Wisconsin. He's a great pass-catching running back.
I just think everyone kind of sold out on running backs a few years ago, and that mentality is still lingering. But when you look at it, having a star running back is literally the game changer, because it allows you to have a dynamic offense. And later in the year, when you're playing in cold weather, you have someone you can hand the rock to and they're reliable.
By the way, C.J. Anderson has been hugely important for the Rams, and he's not considered as...
Crucial. He's a